Hey, everybody, this is Shakisha Glass, and welcome to Talk, Feel, Heal, a space for Baltimore to talk about the things we go through and try to find ways to get through. It's brought to you by the 988 Helpline in Central Maryland. Today, we're talking about a different way to deal with addiction, specifically to drugs and alcohol. I'm so excited to welcome our guests to talk about this. Molly, who is with Healthcare for the Homeless, and Donna Bruce, founder and CEO of DBU Inc. Welcome.
First, I want to say thank you for having me here. I appreciate you. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Donna Bruce, CEO and founder of DBU Inc. And I'm so honored to be here today to create this space where we can have an authentic conversation just around healing and addiction and the city I so love, Baltimore. So,
Can I ask what DBU stands for?
absolutely,
Okay.
Donna Bruce Unlimited.
Come on. All right. Okay. Okay.
And incorporated because the
Okay.
work doesn't stop because as you know with addiction change and the times change and people change, we have to learn to adapt and change with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to stop the organization if it has to reroute itself and DBU Inc. So
Love
that's how it's
that.
changed.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Donna.
You as well.
And Molly.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Molly Greenberg. I am a nurse and a harm reduction program manager at Healthcare for the Homeless. And I really love working here in Baltimore. And I've been here for about 13 years. And I'm not from here originally, but I feel really connected to the community through the work that I do in harm reduction and substance use support.
Well, let me be the one to say thank you both. Thank you both for what you do. When people hear the word addiction, what's the first image or idea that usually comes to mind, and why do you think that is?
I think so. I work so at Healthcare for the Homeless. A lot of the folks that I see are street homeless.
Mhm.
Not everybody. People are, some people are doubling up. Some people have places that they're staying. But I think often, especially people have a very like specific idea of what a person who's homeless who uses drugs is like,
Mm,
and often substance use and homelessness or addiction and homelessness kind of like go together
yeah.
because they're both such stigmatized individually, right? These categories, so to speak, are
Yeah.
so stigmatized, and then you have like the double stigma. I think people, a lot of times when people kind of ask, what do you do, or who are the people that have this very so people who are nodding on the street
Mhm.
corner, this kind of
Mhm.
thing, and kind of having to set the record straight, like that's what you're seeing in a moment
Mhm.
is nothing. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean
Exactly.
anything about who somebody is on the inside, and it
Yes.
certainly doesn't tell you what they've experienced in their
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for
Yes.
that. That's good.
Oh, that was great, Molly. And to compliment. My mind was saying stigma, stigma, stigma. The question was again, what
Mhm.
does addiction look like?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it doesn't have a face.
Mhm.
It really doesn't. It has a lot of stigma
Mhm.
around it.
Mhm. Mhm.
When you say addiction, you think of a person again who's homeless, who has little to nothing, um, and addiction doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
You you may have a doctor
Yeah.
who's addicted. So
Yeah.
addiction, the term addiction just doesn't stop at drugs or alcohol
That's
either.
right.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
we think about
Mhm.
addiction,
Mhm.
unfortunately, we have to start with breaking the stigma around the term addiction,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? So if we
Mhm.
start breaking that term addiction and call it what it is, a disease,
Yeah.
then we are looking at it in a different perspective. Um, I am a person in recovery.
Yeah.
Um, I have experienced stigma. I recall overdosing, and
Hmm.
EMTs came and they was like, "Oh, just somebody else that overdosed." They never
Yeah.
asked my name.
Yeah.
They never asked what I do for a
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
Common.
And they're tired for
And
all
it's
intents and
interesting that
purposes.
you bring that up because my next question literally is how does the judgment, that stigma, how does it affect the person, that is experiencing addiction? So you gave a little bit of your testimony. So I don't know if you want to elaborate a
Oh,
little bit more, or
absolutely.
Molly, if you have,
Mhm.
but the judgment, sometimes we do assume it's the lean. outside. It's the person, but it has different looks. So
Yeah. I mean, looking at me, a
Mhm.
person look at me and they think I have it all together.
Mhm.
Because
I mean,
we're
you look
talking about,
good.
oh, thank you, girl. I
You
appreciate
do.
that. But that it's just so not true. And it didn't help me
Mhm.
all my life
Mhm. Mhm.
because people always peg me to be strong.
Yeah.
And I had to fight through addiction. So when we're talking about the survival
Mhm. Mhm.
of addiction,
Mhm.
um, this was never a problem getting the outside. It was the
Yeah.
resources.
Mhm.
It was getting a true therapist,
Yeah.
a true psychologist, the correct medication. Because if you have someone who's been up all night, matter of fact, a week, and they go to the emergency room and say, "Hey, I need some help," the first thing they're going to diagnose you with is schizophrenia because you're
Yeah.
hearing voices because you've been
Yeah.
up.
Because you
So
have
now we're
Yes.
talking about not being able to
Yeah.
get the true resources that a person
Yeah.
need, diagnosis, and now that's on your. It's a lot. It's a system that we're fighting on this end. Molly,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
you, BHSB, to break that stigma
Mhm.
because that's what this is all about. Is let's have a real authentic conversation
Yeah.
that systems have to be broken for people to get the
Ooh.
level of need that they need around addiction and mental health.
Yeah.
Because not just the individual, but the family unit.
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
No, Donna, I so appreciate what you're saying. I think lived experience is so much always somebody who has lived experience can speak so much
Yeah.
more
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to this issue than somebody who supports people with lived experience. Um, I I definitely find that I love what you said about the fight. We're fighting, and sometimes we're fighting within our own like community or field, so to speak. I think just speaking in the medical field specifically, there's so much stigma, even
Mhm.
in
Mhm. Mhm.
medicine. So many of the people that I went to school with, or I like trained with, or I met over the years, um, there's still a lot of like preconceived notions about
Mhm.
substance use,
Mhm.
people who use drugs, what that looks like, what that means, just the way that people are spoken about is
Yeah.
very. We really have so much work to do, just in the field of medicine. I'll
Yeah.
speak to and other fields as
Yeah.
well, um, and I find it when the stigma that people feel,
Mhm.
they internalize that
Yeah.
and it comes out in so many various ways.
Mm-hmm.
um but that
Mm-hmm.
shame is so just it's heartbreaking to see because I think there is this idea like a lot of people who experience addiction were sort of like you had to be strong, you had to be strong,
Yeah.
and they feel actually like they're very weak. A lot of people
Mhm.
feel, I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't say everybody, but some people feel very weak
Mhm.
inside.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there is so much strength inside,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
just because your mental health doesn't mental health diagnosis, mental health
Yeah.
struggles doesn't cancel out strength.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. So, but I think that there is people feel that shame so
Mm-hmm.
intensely, and that does get in the way of being able to sometimes show up in spaces
Yeah.
where people want to support you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's also, more often than not, I think that's also because of past experience of being in spaces where you didn't feel supported
Yeah.
and you
Absolutely.
felt judged and you felt like you were less than
Mhm.
because people, this people, in power,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
it wasn't made
Yeah.
for you, right?
That's crazy, Molly, that you say that because I was working for Department of Social Services and the child child abuse. What is it called? Where they
CPS.
CPS.
Mhm.
Thank you. So and I was the recovery coach to go out to the hospital when the babies come out addicted to meet with the person before the social worker come in. And I'll never forget. They were like, "Well, who's going to go get the crack baby today? Because I'm tired."
Yeah, yeah.
What they didn't know is I have a set of twins, Darian and Darius Culver. If you see this, I am your mother. I love you.
Mm.
If you see this, know that I've always been struggling with addiction.
When you see this.
when you see this. Amen.
Mhm.
So they didn't know that struggle I had gone through, where I turned my pain into purpose, and that's why I became, and that's why I
Yeah.
chose that unit.
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
I couldn't help and reach my own, I was going to be able to reach someone else's. And I had a conversation with the social workers. I said, listen,
Good for you.
what you don't know is I am that mother that you're talking about.
Mhm.
And if you're tired and need self-care days, maybe you should talk to your supervisor.
Yeah,
'Cause that was
real.
very stigmatizing.
Real.
So people in the health field like you, Molly, I appreciate, speak up.
When you think about things that are beyond our control, like things that are hereditary or generational traumas, how can you explain like harm reduction to someone? How to someone who's like me? I'm over here like, well, what's ACEs? What's
I
this?
know,
What's
I
that?
know.
Like, how can you break that down in lamest terms for us?
What is it that you want to do?
Mhm.
Mm.
That's it.
You put the ball in their court.
Oh, that's good.
It is
Yeah,
good. That's
I
good.
love that.
No,
Yes.
it's true.
It
It's
is.
true.
That's
It's like,
good.
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Because according to society, you should be complete abstinent if you're in recovery.
Mm.
And I'm speaking from lived experience, like
Yeah.
of being in recovery. And life showed up,
Mm-hmm.
and I picked a wrong coping skill. Now, who are we talking to? Are we talking about harm reduction? Or are we really talking about change
Mm-hmm.
and accepting a person at the level of their need?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the dynamics of the environment that happen around them?
Yeah.
Or you're just looking at, oh, she using, or you're getting high, and you know what? We're going to demote you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to take this, and we're going to snatch this away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And these very organizations
Mhm.
that give you the credentialing
Yeah.
is not providing an additional service
Mm-hmm.
to say, what is it that you need?
Yeah.
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 Instead of being punitive
Ooh.
Mhm.
with a
Especially when it's
person.
something that we are all dealing with. Everybody has something.
Everybody has something, and we have to be careful
Yeah.
because people are suicide. Like, stop being punitive and the stigma. And when I say it's heavy,
Yeah.
it's heavy. So harm reduction is, what does recovery look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
If you quote unquote relapse, or if you, because it's the peer model. You're in recovery when you say you're in recovery. So that's a whole new model that came out,
Mm-hmm.
because back in the day it was complete abstinence.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a model that says, hey, you're in recovery when you say you're in recovery. So if you have a drink and you're still able to go to work,
Yeah.
that's harm reduction.
Yeah.
Or it's not affecting your job, that's harm reduction, right? But then
Ooh, that's so
yeah,
good.
it's good.
And I'm thinking
It's true.
because so many people are like, well, if I can't go cold turkey, then I can't quit and I have to stay. You know,
If
I'm
you need
stuck in
methadone,
this.
Yeah.
if you need maintenance,
Yeah.
go
And
ahead,
I
Molly.
give like no, I like
Yeah.
what you just said is
Mm-hmm.
exactly right. It's like I think that sometimes prevents people from moving forward, right? Because
Yeah.
they're like there's this one way that recovery looks this one way, and I like to think of harm reduction
Linear.
recovery exactly. It's a
Mm-hmm.
spectrum,
Yeah.
right? Like we're like some people. The goal is and Donna said it, it's like what do you want, what is your goal? That's the first question when somebody comes in, like, what brought you here today?
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And not what are you looking for tomorrow or 5 days from now or a year from
Mm-hmm.
now, but like what do you need now?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can
Mm-hmm.
have the conversation when you're ready
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
about what you want in the future,
Yeah.
right? And that's super important because you should know that your future matters
Yeah.
and your life matters.
Yeah. And you have a say so, because I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of working with persons and become really attached to them. And I can see what can probably benefit them. So I'll put my biases like, oh, girl, you need to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to remain a stripper.
Do you find that
So
can
you want
push
to
people
remain
away?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the young lady said she want to remain a stripper. She like traveling back and forth, and she's not on drugs, but that's
Yeah.
a whole nother
Yeah.
addiction
Yeah.
but harm reduction. Even
Mm-hmm.
in that, I said, take these condoms,
Yep.
take my
You're
phone
keeping her
number.
safe. She's
Let
getting
me connect you to someone that I know who lives in that state,
Yeah.
and just made a connection.
Yeah.
So harm reduction could be things like that. Like, I understand I couldn't reach my son.
Yeah.
I mean, working in the field, helping so many others.
Yeah.
I couldn't reach my son.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't know,
so I had to
reach out
call a
to you.
friend.
Like, can I?
I know. I'm like,
I'm like,
No, I had to call a friend and say, hey, and he ended up being his peer support person.
yeah.
And I couldn't ask questions. Um, and So even learning when to step back and extend grace,
Mm.
yeah.
right? Because I was like, you can't stay here. You got to get out.
Yeah.
That was anyway. So that was the last conversation I had with my son was you couldn't stay in my home, our home at the time. But that again wasn't a decision that I wanted to make. It was pressured by the stigma of another program that says, I don't know if you found, but you go into these anonymous programs and you hear people saying, you got to put that person out. Like when I first got clean, they told me you have to stay away from your mother because me and my mother got high. I didn't want to stay away from my mother. I love my mother.
Yeah.
So when my mother passed away, I didn't get an opportunity because I was trying to operate in what people were telling me in this anonymous program.
Yeah.
So it's addiction and recovery is really complicated.
Yeah.
Because when you come and you're so vulnerable and you're broken and you're trusting people that are in these positions that have gotten here before you to only hurt you and when do I make my own decision?
Yeah.
Totally. And nobody knows what another person's relationship is really like or relationships are really like. We can hear it, but we don't can never really fully feel it unless we're in it. And so for us to just say like, I mean, we can be concerned about somebody, but to say like drop that person or blah blah, it's not like you said, Donna, it's not that simple. And I think like, there's so many reasons why people stay connected to people. There's financial reasons, right? There's people who were once felt like safe and supportive eventually don't feel safe and supported.
And abuse.
And it is not for me or anybody else to judge why somebody needs to stay connected to family member or partner or friend or community member. But we can provide resources based on what somebody needs. A lot of times when people first come in and they're like maybe looking for just support, and what's your goal is maybe a question, or what do you want? And sometimes people are like, I don't want to stop using drugs, but I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like
that's a step.
We can't do
That's
anything.
A power step.
That's a big step. But I don't want to die. Yeah.
Well, you can do harm reduction if you're not alive.
There's an organization over East Baltimore that gives you syringes. They have a vending machine outside. They have peers inside.
Wow.
And then right around the corner from that, you have a place that say, okay, you want complete abstinence? Then you come to this program.
So levels.
Yeah.
Levels. Yeah.
Whichever need that you want.
And we have that at HCH too. We have a syringe service program like at the clinic, mobile van. And also recognizing that harm reduction, there's this like meet people where they're at. That also means physically meeting people where they're at, like going to people and not expecting them always to come to us. And I think that is something I will say that I'm learning a lot about, like doing more community outreach because it's, even at a place that I like to think of as welcoming, like healthcare for the homeless, like sometimes it's really hard for people to get there. And sometimes just stepping through the door is a huge,
and
huge
walking
thing.
past it all. Because,
Yes.
I mean, let's be real. We have the tents. We have the
bit
violence that happen when the sun goes down. You have a lot that's happening, at one time, and you're just trying to get to safety. Maybe you took somebody drugs that live under the tent, and you got to just get to, because you made a decision.
Yeah.
And whatever that decision looks like that you want to make is how we'll best support you.
I'm over here like just thankful to have met you both and the work that you do. Like,
Thankful. This is
because
nice.
I'm so serious because like I know firsthand family and friends who probably, if not have benefited from your services, can. And so it really does mean a lot to know like that the work you're doing is real. Like it's not just for show or we got a grant to do this. So like no, I'm really doing this thing. So thank you. I can hear it. I can feel it. When we think about recovery, how is it and why is it? What is the difference and why is it important to separate survival from recovery?
Oh, I love that question. That is such, and I love that you use the
Mm-hmm.
word survival
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Because you said earlier, like, hey, I'm not done with this. I just don't want to die,
Yeah.
you know? So what is the difference and why is it important to separate that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
We were. Go ahead, Molly, because this
I
is
mean,
something like
yeah, I think we could spend, days just on
Yeah.
this topic, but like, recovery is like what Donna said, like it's what it means to you, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
what I
Mm-hmm.
define it
Mm-hmm.
as. I have a little quote on my wall that says like your like recovery is how you define it. It's not how
Mm.
I define it. It's not how the dictionary defines it. It's not how, you know, XYZ researcher defines it. It's about how you define it. Um, and if you want to eventually define it differently, that's
Yeah.
that's something too, right? But like it's how you define it, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna like sit with you in that,
Yeah. So if
right?
I drink
Um,
one less drink a day,
yeah,
I'm in recovery. If I say I'm in
that's
recovery.
well, that's harm reduction.
Okay.
So you
So
have
so
different.
help me understand.
Okay, so you have recovery where they say that's complete abstinence,
Okay.
but then they turned around and said you have harm reduction, and you're in recovery when you say you're in recovery.
Yeah.
So the models
hmm
are conflicting,
Okay.
and being on both sides of the spectrum, I cannot think, and it breaks my heart because
Yeah.
when you think you in recovery is when you're not doing anything, but I
Yeah.
can't explain it. It's very, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense to
You're
you
making
all.
perfect sense. I think one of the things I think about, like, I know for a fact that I have addictive tendencies.
Okay.
And because I know I have addictive tendencies, I'm very careful
Now,
what
what are
what
you addicted to?
I.
Because it's not drugs. Was it eating? Is it
No,
shopping?
what
Is
I'm
it
saying is it
traveling?
could be. Like, is it a decision? Like,
No.
because you can
It's
say,
a
hey, I'm a stop this. So am I now in, or I want to stop this? Or here's what people say, right? You can't help them until they want to be helped. So when is that I want to be helped? How do I know I want to be helped?
so, and again, it's different for everyone. So every bottom has another trap door that may have
Ooh.
a bottom,
hmm
right? And you
Mm.
make a decision that, and it may be not even recovery. I just want to get my kids back. So the
Yeah.
decision may be contingent on something else.
Yeah.
I just want to rest tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, so the decision is not active. For me, my decision wasn't actively, I just want to stop getting high.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
decision was,
I want this
I'm
other thing.
tired.
I
Yeah.
want
just
this
wanna
other
get
part
some
of life.
rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't even wanting
The
another part
rest
of life because
thing.
I didn't know what was
Ooh,
on the other side.
that's good
Yeah.
to know.
So then I said, well, what's the most that can happen if I do some steps and get a sponsor? Because I was sassy because
Yeah.
I fought all my life and I was paying my own
Yeah.
bills, and y'all
Mm.
don't pay my bills, and y'all don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
But the pain inside,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can identify with the pain that was
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, it started as, what's the most that can happen?
Yeah.
It changed my world.
Yeah.
hmm
It flipped
Damn.
my world upside down.
Yeah. I think it's like really easy to forget, and you spoke to this and you've experienced it, and we've all experienced it on some level, but that substances, when people have it, like I think what separates out substance use from addiction, right? Like using drugs from somebody who is in
Addictive
active
tendency.
addiction
Mm-hmm.
is like there's actually something that happens in your brain, right?
Mm.
We don't choose that. You spoke
Yeah.
to that earlier. That's not chosen,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that the repeated intake of a substance, it actually changes your brain, right?
Dopamine.
There's a pathway in your brain, and it's called the reward pathway,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
that is activated,
Mhm.
right? And when you with certain substances, and then you become dependent. You need
Yeah.
more and more and more just to feel well,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes, or to feel not even well as in healthy, but good,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so maybe what starts off as feeling like, oh, I just need a way to cope, right?
Yeah.
Or like, and maybe it's not even that intentional of just like, I need an escape,
Yeah.
right? Or like, this is all I know because I've seen
That's
other
what I
people do this and this has worked for them for at least a period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that thing where it works until it doesn't,
Yeah.
right? And like, then, and who am I to determine when it doesn't
Mhm,
anymore? I don't get to decide when it
mhm.
doesn't. If somebody that is an effective coping is a mechanism for a time, when what's concerning is like when your survival, when your safety is impacted. Again, that doesn't mean I get to decide that you stop right then
Yeah.
and there. But I think, recovery, like, is, I mean, it's such a loaded term. And I want to say, like, there's so many different ways that people, like, recover, and all of them are important and useful. And I think one thing I've struggled with listening to people talk about their experiences, and I'd love to hear, if we have time, your thoughts about this, Donna, too, is like when people talk about like NA or AA, there's a lot of shame and stigma that people express gets perpetuated in those settings. So, for example, a lot of people come and they're like, "I messed up." That's the first thing they say. I'm like, what do you mean? I relapsed. Like, okay. I'm looking at you. You're the same person you were 2 minutes ago, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
I understand why you might be feeling mad at yourself. I can't make you not feel mad at yourself. And you should know, like, your value as a human being has not changed at all.
Yeah.
And what's more, like, good for you for being able to say that. That's such a hard thing to say, thank you for trusting me with that. Like, do you want to talk about it? And then that leads to conversations about grief, right? Like, grief, not just for, like, maybe you lost somebody, or or you're grieving what your life
Could
feel like
be
your life could have been,
or what you
right?
thought it would
Yes, you're
be.
grieving people, you're grieving places, you're
Yep.
grieving what you feel like you missed out on,
That's why it's so many levels.
Yeah.
It has to be unpacked, and that's amazing.
You're grieving for your ancestors,
survival.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You said it so eloquently. I was trying to get to it, but I was like,
you said it though.
Because I couldn't process what, just from all my experiences of like long terms of sobriety, to slips, to relapses, to grief. And so when I'm saying I slipped, well, what happened the day before? I was grieving a grief pain that I've never felt before. So where's your support system? They couldn't even identify with this level of grief. Or it was easier because you can have so much information going to certain anonymous programs that people now put you someplace because you've been a part of that that community, and you should know better.
Yeah, totally.
So now it's like, I'm human.
Totally. We're all human, right? And like I think I might have said this earlier, but it's like I think about, we can't like heal in isolation, but also people, it's so hard to know who to trust out there. And that's,
Betrayal.
And that can be really like that can be really activating, like having a
what happened
triggering,
as a childhood.
exactly, thinking about that, and then having like feeling that your trust is you're broken all over again, and I think about one of the things that people, just going really quickly back to the, like, people feeling that that like stigma or that judgment was perpetuated if they were in like certain kinds of recovery settings. One thing I like to think about is, like, if you're on a road trip and you are like, you're from here to, I don't know, like California, and you get a flat tire in Ohio, you're not like, oh, you got a flat tire, you got to get it fixed and then go back to Maryland and then start all over again, right? That's not what that makes no sense. And I mean, not the
That's
best
a good analogy. That's pretty good.
That's a good
You're gonna get the tire fixed and keep it
Yeah.
pushing. You can got all the way to Ohio.
And maybe you get another flat tire when you're in Colorado.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not great. Like, it's a bump in the road that, like, it would have been nice to not have had.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to make this simplistic, because addiction is so much more complicated.
I don't think you made that simplistic, because a flat tire.
It's relatable.
Yeah.
Because you have to meet people where they are, and if when we're boots on the ground, we have to get creative
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah. And people are telling themselves, oh, I messed up. I got to go back to the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, when I think about showing up for people authentically, it's like you're allowed to feel frustrated or upset with yourself. Like, we all feel frustrated when we do something that we didn't intend to do or want to do, right? And also, right, like, some of that is like your
Chemical.
brain finding
Yeah.
ways to cope, right? Like,
No,
our
that's
brains
real.
are like very smart.
Left side work, but now we got to start using.
No, so real. So
Yeah.
you ladies both spoke on the survival and the recovery, and I really appreciate you diving into it the way that you did. As I'm thinking about a person, and we spoke on this, I just want to, if you could, in lamest clear terms, if I'm a person that is experiencing addiction, I'm going through it, I'm not ready to quit, but what are some steps? I don't, everything won't work for everybody, but if I'm listening and someone is listening, like, I know I'm not ready today, but like, tell me what to do anyway. What would you say? I love this tennis game too.
I feel like that's like mostly what people say to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have like an answer, and I think it changes and like you adapt based on the person. But like I think, do you have people in your life that you can trust?
No.
Right.
I'm
And somebody
answering
says
you.
no, but
Yep.
you're answering
Yep.
right, right. And you're like, okay, do you feel like you need that or want that?
Nah.
Okay. Fair enough. Maybe you feel like you don't have reason to.
I'm just coming up with. I'm trying to be the
No, you're
person.
doing
Yeah.
it
I'm sorry.
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying
Because
to.
I'm tired of
Yeah. I'm
so
like,
what can I do for
Yeah,
you
what-
today?
I don't know. They said I need help.
Okay.
Okay, so who is they?
Everybody. I can't get no job.
Okay.
Mhm.
So here's the first thing I need to do. I'm gonna ask you to do is call 911. Do you feel safe where
Mhm.
you're at?
Mm-hmm.
Have you used today?
Mm-hmm.
Give you Narcan.
Okay.
I'm here if you need anything. You don't have to make any decisions today. I can get you transportation. You can reach out to DBU Inc. You can reach out to 988. You can reach out to Healthcare for the Homeless. But know that I'm here in this specific place every day at 12 o'clock.
I like that.
So let me get you a food voucher.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get you a bus token. And let me get your basic needs.
Yep.
Because they don't know
Basic.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
Do you have food?
Do you
Yeah.
need shelter
Water.
for
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah.
Water. Like
Yeah.
really
You
like
see how
really
her-
good.
she was mocking it, but you see how
No,
it was
because
like-
I,
it was
I'm
like,
saying
dang,
these
like,
things
yeah, that
because
makes sense.
as I'm talking to people, I don't have these resources, but as I'm talking and navigating
That's
life
good.
with people, this is what they're giving me.
Yeah.
They got to answer for everything.
Yeah,
and
they
so
do.
I'm like, I'm going to get an answer
Now
for your
you got-
answer.
now you gotta
Now I got to
answer.
answer for your answer.
Come call Miss Donna. Call Donna Bruce.
Listen.
She'll come down here right now.
And get you right. Get you right.
1-800-DONNA.
Right.
Yeah.
DBU.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes people, like people will, I think there is this, like, I don't know, somebody told me I needed this, or like, I thought maybe this is something that there might be something here that could help me, whatever it is. It's like, and, or somebody told me I need therapy, right? It's like, well, if you're feeling sick, if you're in withdrawal, I'm just giving you an example, like, you don't want to talk, much less like see a therapist,
Yeah.
So maybe you just need somebody to sit with you in that moment and say like you're physically not feeling well right now. Like
Yeah.
maybe like, are you interested in medication? You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you if you're not. Like
Yeah.
that is your prerogative. Maybe you will be eventually, maybe you won't be. Either way, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, like these are things that we, this is what I have to offer, but like I'm not, I'm just one person, and there's
Yeah.
we're together, as a team. And like the main thing I want you to know is that for whatever reason you're showing up, for whatever you decide that you need in this moment or moments in the future, like your life is valuable.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed Pearson say, I've used, can you just watch me?
Yes, me too.
I said, I'll sit right here and watch you.
Or hold my hand. You just sit and hold my hand.
And I'll have Narcan standby, if they need to be Narcan. And people knew that I could be trusted, like right there on Pennsylvania North Avenue, where people trust me so much. They would say, so-and-so just overdosed in the abandoned house up there. I don't think he made it. So one day, myself and a coworker, we were like, this is the second time she came. we're going to go up there because I'm nosy anyway.
mhm.
We're going to go up there and see. We got to the location. The EMTs were coming out.
Mm,
And I was like, is someone in there? It was like, yeah, we great call the coroner.
mm.
And that's the trust that you need
Yeah.
with the community, because I know you don't know what you want to do. And I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay some options down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, I think you should get detox first. Go get medicated so you can think about what it is that you need.
Yeah.
But you think enough to come here, so that lets me know that you thinking enough about possibilities.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And if somebody's like,
Yeah.
I don't want I don't want this specific thing, or I don't know what I want, I feel like that's sometimes like a really like, I know, does anybody really know what they want? I mean, I guess
Yeah,
sometimes,
right.
yeah. But I think, one thing is to just say like human connection. Like I can offer
Community.
human
Yeah.
connection, and like there's no medicine for that, right? There's no or like you can't like there's no like bottle of
You can't
something
bottle
I
that
can
up.
I can
Nope, you sure
hand.
can't.
It's like it's a thing that somebody has to feel. I can't make somebody feel it either, right?
Yeah.
It's something that somebody has to feel. There are things I can do, all humans can do to
Mhm.
make people more comfortable, but sometimes people just don't connect no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
But I like to think that even if somebody's not ready for human connection, like deep human connection, or support in
Mhm.
the way that like eventually, if you keep building a relationship, and if you keep offering, and if you keep at it, and if you that they might be ready for some
Yeah.
kind of connection,
Yeah.
right? And that looks different for everybody. And I see it over and over and over again. People who feel like they've given up on themselves, other people have given up on them. They feel like they've burned every bridge, so to
mhm,
speak,
mhm.
in their life. And then, like sometimes people disappear. Like I saw a patient last week who I hadn't seen for 6 months, and I wasn't totally sure what had happened. I had some ideas, but and she just showed right back up, and
Wow.
she was like, I just wanted to tell you I'm doing so good.
See?
Wow.
And so, I think, I know this isn't the question exactly, but I think on like, if we as humans can like just show that we're not going to give up on people,
Mhm.
right? That like, that what you said, they're not the sum total of their, like it's
Yeah.
what you experience, not,
Yeah.
your behavior is usually a result of
Yeah.
something that you've
Yeah.
experienced. And that doesn't mean that all behavior is excusable, but it's maybe more understandable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And I hope it's more understandable to
Yeah.
people. And so really
Accountability is
just,
everything, but also
Yeah.
extending grace.
yes.
Yeah.
We can clearly see if somebody's shucking and jiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll shuck and jive with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's what I need. But like if you're straight up like you can feel the remorse, or you can feel the hurt, you can empathize with that person to understand. It's like you coming is showing accountability.
Yeah.
That I'm here.
Just showing up.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%, but I'm
Yeah.
here, or I'm doing wonderful, and thank you for your help.
Yeah.
So
And the guts it takes to just like
show back
show
up.
up in a
Oh,
space,
it's
like,
listen.
like show up in a space like that is like a space where that has felt like where there's a power dynamic, right?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
represents something like not so great,
Yeah.
is brave and beautiful, and like that on its own deserves recognition.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I mentioned to you earlier, yesterday, my mom, and she had already asked me to take her to the doctors. And I'm thinking, she'll never ask me to take her to the doctors, but all right. And the day before yesterday, I couldn't do it. That was the first day. And she was like, I was like, but I'll call you an Uber. And she was like, all right, well, let me call you right back. And then she was like, well, I changed it to tomorrow. Can you do it tomorrow? And I'm like, why she want me to take her so bad? Like, and so I went to pick her up, and she's with my sister. And my sister's like, you got this, Mom. You're going to be great. And she tells me, and I don't know why I'm picking her up. So I'm like, and my sister, this is my little sister. She's like, make sure you feed her, because I don't know if they're going to feed her in the hospital and all this stuff or whatever. So I wait, and we pull up. I said, what's going on? Like, what you? And she was like, I know, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to say anything to anybody because I just wanted to do it. So when you talk about just showing up, and this is not her first attempt,
Yep.
Or second or third,
Mhm.
and she's talked about these things, and so she didn't talk about it, and so
That's something different.
and it was something different. And so we're sitting, so the stuff you guys are saying, and I'm like, you're right. And so we're sitting in the car, and we get breakfast. She's like, I've never been to Starbucks before. And I was just, she don't drink coffee.
Right.
So it's just not her thing. But I was like, well, I'm going to get you a breakfast a breakfast sandwich. And so we're sitting outside, and I was like, well, how long do you have to be here? And she said 3 days. And I said, well, do you have, a plan for when you come home? Do you have and so she said, I never thought I needed any kind of group before. I've heard horrible things about, meetings, but I think I need something when I get out. And I said, I'm gonna figure something. I'm gonna have some answers for you by the time. So this is
Donna Bruce.
Listen, Donna Bruce, and she lives on. Listen, let me not put her address up there.
That's
But
okay.
we gonna talk about thing. But
I
I say all of that to say, when we're dealing with family and we're dealing with loved ones, what are some tips? What are some don't says and some do says? And we mentioned it, but just if you could put it in a condensed answer, like, hey, do, don't. Try, don't try.
Don't judge.
Ooh, good.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Listening. Don't be critical.
Yeah.
Be empathetic, sympathetic. And I just can't say it more. Listen.
And it's funny because I was going to ask you to open up about listening, because sometimes we think we're listening and we're not listening.
We're already rebuttaling in our head, like what I'm going to say, because I've been down this road. And I'm going to say this, it's like you got to learn them all over again when they come home. Because in our mind, we still think, oh, that's the same person. But something is changing.
Yeah.
And maybe not changing as fast as we want to. But if I sit with them long enough, maybe they just pass me a tissue and they used to throw the tissue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're going to miss those little things if you're constantly saying, oh, this is our 8th time doing this. She's moving differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you'll see it in the action. It'll be the most subtlest thing. Like I came off of social media for 6 months.
Yeah.
I had to come off.
Ooh.
I am the Facebook selfie queen. You ask anybody, and I was like, take a picture. And just find out what is happening inside of me, in my body, in my mind, how I'm responding. My evidence showed that on paper, I'm great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I'm home, I'm broken.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Yeah.
But I can't even articulate what it is happening in my home at that particular time. So it runs deep. It is a lot of this.
Yeah.
And nobody said, what's happening to you? So that's why I say, listen and watch what people are doing.
Yeah.
Especially if it's loved ones that you're connected with. You'll see certain things and certain behaviors that are changing. Even being estranged from like people, it's just so much.
Yeah.
But those are the basic things I can think of is just really listening, compassion, empathy, sympathy, boundaries. Am I missing anything, Molly?
I think you said it. I think like staying away from should and shouldn't. Like you should do this, you shouldn't,
Yeah.
and approaching things with curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't know, what is that? Like stay curious, approaching things with curiosity, because when you do that, then you're showing that you're actively listening, right? Hopefully actively listening, and that you're really genuinely wanting to know. You're not just making an assumption. You're you're asking that person, and then I think this is something that I'm working on, is it's so easy to go to what do you need, right? And I think about and that's always a love. I think that question always comes with love from people when they ask it. So a lot of times people don't know what they need, and so I think finding a way, and I haven't figured out a good way to say this concretely, but I'm going to do it as best I can, which is to just say I want you to know that I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I also know that you might not know what you need right now, and that's okay. But I just am going to sit here with you, and I'm not going to expect you to know what you need and ask me for those things. I'll try to offer concrete things, like what you said, those basic human needs, food, water, right? Those are things I can't give you I wish I could give you the gift of loving yourself or feeling like you're healed or all of those things. And I'm not sure I even wish I could give that, everybody has to go through their own process. But if there are concrete things that will feel loving and feel supportive, that like, you know, that you're there. And Donna said it's compassion and empathy. But yeah, I think it's just really like showing that you can, as best you can, even if you haven't experienced what that person has experienced, that you can like sit with them in their grief. You can sit in silence.
Yeah. That's good. I thank you both.
Oh,
Thank you both.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where's
Thank
the
you so
coffee?
much.
I need coffee.
Hilarious. We gotta get some. We need to get together and get some
We
coffee.
need coffee. I want to thank you again.
Yeah, great questions too.
Yeah.
988 is a free confidential line that anyone can call if they are concerned about their alcohol or drug use. There are specialists that can answer, just sit with you, listen, and they can help you find ways to navigate. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Nice meeting you.
Such an honor to be with you.
Absolutely. Same here.